round of our speaker sessions, we hear from someone who champions innovation through open source technology. Let's give a warm welcome to the only man speaker that we have, except for Sima, he was our panelist, to the speakers, Mr. Nikolai Tjongarero, as he speaks on FreedomTech and entrepreneurship.
Good morning, everybody. Can everybody hear me? It's always weird when I'm on a stage and a microphone because I'm a loud person by general nature. My name is Nikolai, as mentioned, and thank you all for allowing me to grace the stage and share at Women in Technology, because I've got a weird presentation. Normally I get on stages and I speak about Bitcoin. That's what I do. I teach Bitcoin, teach people how not to get scammed in Bitcoin, teach people what Bitcoin is and how to integrate it into their systems. But today I'm not doing that. Today our talk is a bit different. So my talk today is on open source, open doors. I do believe that open source is the tool that a lot of people don't know exists in the industries. When you use open tech, let's rather say, or I like to call it freedom tech. So this is who I am. I'm just going to skip past it because it's written down already. But there's only two things here that I think really matter. One thing I want to talk about is this, that I was the 8th and the 10th most impactful African Bitcoiner, 2 years running, 2023 and 2024. And why I'm talking about that is it's part of my talk in some of the other people that were on that list. And of course, the last one is, this is why I'm actually on the stage, right? You wonder, why is there a man talking to us on stage at a women's conference? And the reason is this man that's standing here happens to be the first podcaster in Africa, continent-wide, to be paid in Bitcoin. That happened in 2019. So I'm speaking from experience, not really just, and I will be moving through this quite fast because I don't want to take all of your time. So I'm going to do something that you're not supposed to do when you are on stage doing a presentation. I'm going to read from something from this slide. And the thing I'm going to read is just that first sentence. Women-led startups receive just 2.1% of VC funding, but create more than 35% better ROI than men do. This is a global statistic. So now when we go to the African sense of this, right? Oh, I don't know why it's taking so long to come up with the words. But I wanted the second one. So in Q1 of 2025, right, African women CEOs raised just 2% of total startup funding across the entire continent, right? And if you, that's like, let's say that's $10 million US, but if you take out grants, that drops to 0.7%. Now that is an actual problem when you look at it, because without that funding, without grants, and grants again can be stopped, as we saw happen with USAID. Grants can be stopped, and then what happens? That means that the communities that these women are serving, the tech that they are bringing forward, all stops. Because the funding is not there where it should be to help make sure that we can go forward. Okay, they always say, if you teach a man, you teach a man. But if you teach a woman, you teach a village. Because women are the ones that bring other people in, that make things inclusive. Men will just stand there by themselves and be fine with it, right? So the last sentence I want to read to you is that women-led startups in Africa raised 48 million in 2024. And that was a drop. So year on year, from 2019 to 2020 to 2021, every year, women startups are raising less and less funds. Or let me rather change that. VCs are giving women-led startups less and less money. So where are women supposed to get funding for the ideas that they have in their head? One thing I wanted to read to you also is it's a statement by the leader of, basically the leader of the protest movement against Robert Mugabe. And he stated that there are people who depend on this technology, Bitcoin is one of them, for their lives. The oppressed rely on the developers who develop FreedomTech. So what is FreedomTech, right? It's an open source advantage. What is FreedomTech? Let me just go back and just say what FreedomTech is. When we speak about FreedomTech, we're talking about open source software. Why do we call it FreedomTech? Because, or actually FOSS, let's say free and open source software. because it's free to utilize, free to download, right? And free to integrate into your products, your systems, and your companies. And what does that do? If I tell you it's going to cost you 30,000 for you to be able to integrate the system, or I tell you you can go on GitHub and you can clone the repo, you can fork it, and you can just do it, right? You can just do stuff. What is the cost that came from that? Internet, laptop, time. That's not 30,000 bucks. So you can actually utilize open source software to reduce cost. Why? You can literally, again, go on GitHub and you can go get the database. You can go download the operating system. Are you using Linux? You don't have to use Windows, right? Linux is free. It's out there. If you're privacy focused, you can use Tails. All of that is free and open source software. You do not pay a license for Linux. You do not pay a license for Tails operating system, right? But this also allows you to work in the open, meaning that other people can collaborate with you, because you're doing it with free and open source software that they might have also downloaded. So now, you're not just working as a one-person team or one-woman team, so to say. You are working in collaboration with people around the globe, right? And by doing this, it gives you access, not only them to you, but you to them. You now can collaborate with Jack Dorsey. Who here knows who Jack Dorsey is? So Jack Dorsey is the man that created Twitter. He's also the man that created the way that Cash App, Venmo, and all of them are able to send money. It's one man that did that. Of course, he had a team, he's a billionaire. But you now, as sitting in Namibia, can collaborate with Jack Dorsey on something. You can collaborate with Samson Mao on something. These individuals are open to new people. They don't want to speak to the same people they've been speaking to at the conferences in New York. And they're looking actively for what is Africa doing. I was at a conference in December last year, the African Bitcoin conference, and I met Jack Dorsey. We stood next to each other, we greeted, we spoke. I met him at the Human Rights Foundation dinner as well, and what is he looking for? He's looking for what Africans are doing. He's not looking for what Americans are doing, what Europeans are doing. He's looking at the new frontier. And Africa is that new frontier. Open source allows us to break down barriers, but it allows it even more for women. I don't think I actually have that quote here, but there is a book, if you have the chance, that I'd like you to read. This book was written in 1999. It's called The Sovereign Individual. In this book, they speak about the future of cyberspace. What will cyberspace be like after the year 2000? Now, there's one thing that I want you to take away from that book when you do read it, is that cyberspace does not care what color your skin is, does not care if you're a man or a woman, does not care when you were born, your age, any of that. What is cared about in cyberspace is, what are your capabilities? What can you do, right? And this is why, when we talk about open source software, FreedomTech, this is what it allows you to do. We've already talked about lowering your costs, and we've already spoken about the fact that now you can internationally, sorry, I'm talking a bit fast again, you can internationally collaborate with people that you wouldn't have had access to because you can't get into those rooms, right? Cyber or technology allows you to be able to do this. Now, I'm almost actually done with my presentation, and these are the only pictures you're going to see. These three women, Janet, who was the 5th most impactful Bitcoiner of 2024, Sabina, who was 12th, and Lorraine, who was number 1 out of the entire continent, and very well deserved. I'm going to basically end off. But Janet is the co-founder of Gridless. Gridless was just put on CNN for the 4 or 5 different Bitcoin mines they have throughout Africa. One of which is just now, I think it's the Malawi one, or the one in Zambia. It's the Zambia one that they put on CNN. Janet is, again, she's the co-founder. It's 3 people, it's Janet and 2 men. Okay, in an energy sector, because that's what Bitcoin mining is. You go, you put down a miner by some place that has energy, but what Gridless has decided to do is, instead of putting it where there's already electricity, let's move electricity to places that normally wouldn't be electrified and be the buyer of first and last resort by putting a Bitcoin miner there. So now we can switch off our Bitcoin miner and give that electricity to the village that couldn't afford it, right? So that's how they're building mini grids using Bitcoin mining. That's a woman in tech in an energy industry that is normally, just men. But then you talk about more innovation. What happens when a woman has an idea, doesn't have funding, but this idea can change people's lives? Sabina she's a co-founder of Tando. Tando is an app that allows me in Kenya, or now in East Africa, she started in Kenya. It allows you to spend Bitcoin, but the recipient receives Kenyan shilling. I send Bitcoin from my Bitcoin wallet. Sonia sitting over there will receive Namibian dollars. How does that work? Right? We first needed mobile money to be there. They have, of course, M-Pesa. And then she just built an add-on to what was already there. Now, this is the point of open source software. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You can build pulley systems. So one of the things I'd like to tell people, do not reinvent the wheel, build pulley systems. Make your job easier and innovate faster. Now, that's what Sabina did. Lorraine, she's my favorite out of the three. In 2022, Lorraine contacted me and said, I have an idea. There are many Kenyan women who sleep with men, little girls, young girls, because they need pads, because they need food, because they need money. There's no other option for a lot of these Kenyan women. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to start a financial literacy and Bitcoin literacy course, and I want you, Open, to be a lecturer. And I said, of course. There's absolutely no way I deny that. Lorraine has been doing this for 3 to 4 years now, right? She's received funding from Jack Dorsey. She's received funding from the Human Rights Foundation. She's received funding from international organizations. But how did she get the funding? It wasn't in Kenyan shillings. It was all in Bitcoin, directly to her Bitcoin wallet. No moving through the banking structure, no man telling you, yes, you can or cannot utilize those funds for XYZ, right? It opens up your ability to decide how you want to live and how you want to work. And this is what open source software and open source or FreedomTech does for you. Now, Lorraine didn't stop there, right? She started in Kenya, then she moved through East Africa. There are Namibians that take this course because it's only for women. No men are allowed to take this course because men already have the opportunity, right? So when Lorraine said, she called out people like Alex Gladstein. And Alex Gladstein said, of course, I will lecture there. She called up all of us, and nobody said no. But then she went a step further and she said, we need to have women developing the future. So she started, she has Bitcoin Data, then she started Data Devs. Data Devs is now also, once again, Human Rights Foundation, Jack Dorsey, all of these people are throwing money at her to educate women on being developers, to create the programs like Tando. Sabina was in the first cohort of Lorraine's Bitcoin Data. She learned about Bitcoin there and then went to go and implement, right? So this is what we're trying to say here. How do you utilize, because nobody else was going to teach them about Bitcoin, but because they had access to an open network, a global open network, they could then implement what they wanted to do. The third company that Lorraine just started is called BitSaco. So how many people here know about, what's this word I'm looking for? When people put money together, stokvel, right? We all know how stokvels work. So she created a stokvel initiative that utilizes Bitcoin, right? That literally comes from outside. It's not grants. These are, you call them grants probably, but how most of us see this is, it's enabling. These are funds that enable you to be able to stand on your own 2 feet and then get the next person to be able to stand on their 2 feet. So when she created Bitcoin Sacco, I said, this woman is unstoppable. She doesn't think about, oh, I need to rest or what. Her whole goal is, how do I make life for Kenyan women better than it is today? And she's done this. She's raised the funding to do this, all via Bitcoin. So there's one woman that, a book that I really love of hers is called Broken Money. Her name is Lynn Alden. And she writes long form, papers and just posts them online. And this is one of the best lines I've ever read from her, where she says, people now have the option to store and send liquid value globally, peer to peer, without relying on claims or IOUs, by instead relying on decentralized, code-enforced rules that immediately put the funds in the hands of the recipient. What does that mean? What is she talking about? She's talking about Bitcoin, right? But why does Bitcoin work? Remember, they've tried electronic money before. The reason Bitcoin worked was because it was released as free and open source software, which means other developers could go look at the code, audit it, and make it better. Build on top of it. So now, you might have an idea, but you might not have the skills, right? I created a thing called the SovereignKey. When you plug it into a computer, it makes every computer your computer, right? It doesn't even use the hard drive on the computer. It only works off of the RAM. But here's the thing. I only learned, like, command line in 2019. So I didn't know how to code it. I had the idea. I went on Twitter, I tweeted about it. Another developer called Ben Westgate said, I'll help you. I'll show you how to code it. I'll show you how to put it together, because I like your idea. So again, if you have an idea, express it. Don't hold it in. Why? Because somebody in China, somebody in Venezuela might actually be able to help you make it a reality. And that is the point of using FreedomTech. So, this is the end of my little talk almost, but I like to call FreedomTech disruptive tech. Why? It changes the way that everybody interacts with the technology, right? Before AI, we all Googled. How many people Google now? You don't Google it anymore, you AI it, right? And then if you really want to go at it, you can say, oh, well, AI is kind of costing money, and like, well, how many people in this room have VS Code on their computer? Did you know that there's a thing in VS Code, an extension called root code? You activate that extension, and you can literally use most LLMs for free. I told them to literally build me a website. That was my prompt. Build me a website on Bitcoin. Look at this website for inspiration. That was the entire prompt. It did it all. It did the HTML, it did the CSS, it did all of it. Right? And I just sat there and watched. So, when we talk about FreedomTech and we talk about how AI is changing the world, what if I told you in a couple of years, if not this year, it's actually already happened, where you tell an AI agent, go out and do this thing. You give it a budget. It goes to other AI agents that have those tools, and they create what you want. Now, this is why L402 is here. How many of you know the error? You know, we all have error codes. Error code 404, nothing found, right? Do you know what error code 402 is for? Error code 402 is for online payments, which we couldn't use until we had a fast way to make digital payments happen. The second layer of Bitcoin, the Lightning Network, achieved that, right? I can send instant money from here to somebody in Kenya, and they'll receive it this second. Not 2 hours from now, not 20 minutes from now, right now. It's final settlement instantaneously. So L402 is where you take the Lightning Network and integrate it with your AI agents, so that in the future, or currently, you pay your AI agents, let's say $500 Namibian worth of Bitcoin. It goes out and finds the other AI agents needed to build what you need, and it pays them. So the developers now are able to open source the way that they earn. It's not just in Namibia that you earn, right? You can get paid for the app you've created just by people using the app. You can be at home. And this is what we get when you create in the open. When you use open software, FreedomTech, is that we can all go together. And thank you very much. That's my talk.